You're listening to E-commerce Fastlane, episode 14.
Welcome to E-commerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, launch, grow, and scale a wildly successful e-commerce company. Listen to real conversations with proven practical strategies and success stories. Learn how to generate more traffic, more sales, more profit, and customer lifetime value for your Shopify store. And now, your host and e-commerce entrepreneur, Steve Hutt.
Hey there, it's Steve, and welcome back to the E-commerce Fastlane podcast. Now, this is your first time listening. This is an e-commerce show where we have honest and transparent conversations about building and thriving online with your store powered by Shopify or Shopify Plus. Now, new episodes are available each week in iTunes and Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, Spotify, pretty much everywhere that your phone or your desktop can connect to iTunes and or with your Android device. You can also sign up at ecommercefastlane.com, and you can be notified kind of when new shows are being released. Today, I'm chatting with Matt Goodman, who is the co-founder of a platform called Okendo, O-K-E-N-D-O, Okendo. And it's a platform that you likely may not have heard of yet. But I tell you, they've really developed a compelling solution that really adds this kind of like and trust factor to your Shopify product pages. You know, more in the form of kind of ratings and reviews that will build the kind of excitement and kind of creates a compelling reason for site visitors to kind of click the buy button, along with a host of other features that you'll soon learn about. Things like user-generated content, like photos and videos, and highlights of kind of the product's unique selling points and kind of key value drivers. And, there's an extremely powerful multi-channel marketing section too that kind of extends the value of this kind of customer generated content, things like inline SEO. So you get like, high rankings in Google and Bing organically, with customer generated reviews, rich snippets, so now it'll actually show review kind of metadata in your product page links in Google or Bing. Google Shopping, you can now push review data to your shopping feeds that will really help to increase conversion. And even as of late, they've even added a Facebook kind of dynamic and lookalike audience kind of ad serving kind of right out of their platform. And there's a whole bunch of other features too. So kind of regardless if you are using a competitive solution right now to generate user reviews or user generated content, you kind of owe it to yourself today to just, if you can spend the next, 30, 40 minutes, listen to this episode, and you can really see what you're missing, and you can kind of see that, some innovation is really happening today. It's a compelling solution, to be quite honest with you, and it deserves some attention. So let's jump into the show. So hi, Matt, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad you're here. I'm excited to dig into this episode today. I was actually, one of my colleagues mentioned your platform, and I thought, what a great opportunity to have you on the show and kind of share kind of what I believe to be massively important for the growth of a Shopify store. And that's kind of the social proof with, reviews and that whole community-based of kind of interaction with a brand. And I thought it'd be great to have you on and kind of talk about kind of what you've been working on and what you've produced. And so maybe kind of before we jump into it, can you tell me a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey that's kind of led up to building the Okendo platform?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for having me on. So Okendo has actually been a Shopify development partner for the last 4 years. Admittedly, we haven't been focused on building the Okendo app that whole time. So for the first 2 years of our being a Shopify partner, we were focused on developing an app called VidTitan, and that enabled retailers to capture video reviews from their clients. We got some decent initial traction and had a reasonable number of users. However, we ultimately felt we didn't quite have product market fit with VidTitan, mainly because retailers were telling us they kind of didn't want to run two apps in parallel, one for video reviews and one for text reviews. So we decided to pivot around 2 years ago and focus on kind of building out the extra features that would enable us to compete in the kind of broader customer reviews market, for the market for customer review apps. And as part of that, we chose to rebrand to Okendo. So we've been going full-time on Okendo now for 2 years. The first 12 months of Okendo, we were just purely focused on product development. And the early relationships that we had with our kind of clients from VidTitan and the partners that we were working with at that time were quite useful, as it helped us inform the features that we were building to really ensure that we were building something that was going to be useful for Shopify retailers. And then, we launched a private beta that ran for about 6 months. And during that time, we were very focused on inviting high-growth Shopify retailers to use the app, because we really were primarily interested in what they had to say about the app and understanding what their needs and goals were. And we've been out of beta now for about 6 months. Okendo is available for all Shopify retailers. And you can find it on the App Store. I believe it's quite a mature system now. It has all the features that high-growth retailers want and need in a reviews platform, so that they can capture awesome customer content.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned about the whole kind of, having multiple apps running to kind of do one thing, with text and video, kind of what VidTitan used to be. And I think that's a kind of a pain point that a lot of my merchants actually experience too, this whole having so many pieces of a tech stack all adding up, and it does make it much more complex and a lot of mishmash things going on. It's nice that you've, I guess, thought about and now have kind of built the platform now to be kind of more solely focused on kind of what it needs to do, instead of having to run multiple different types of solutions. So I think that's fantastic that you're going down that journey. So we know that reviews, as I mentioned at the top of the show, are like super, super important for retailers. Just that adds that social proof, and it just think of like shopping on Amazon. That's one of the first things that I typically do when I go there is I like to see both the good and the bad about a certain product, and then I get a good feeling about if it's something that I want to purchase or not. And so, knowing that's a core feature of Amazon, and kind of Amazon being like the largest retailer, there's quite a few competitors out there, in the same space.
It's true.
Certainly as existing, there's lots of alternatives out there, and just like, so how have you positioned Okendo kind of to be different, I guess, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. It is a good question. Certainly, the market for customer reviews apps is very well established. It's a red ocean. So although there are certainly a lot of challenges, there are a few opportunities that latecomers to existing markets have. So one would be the ability of a kind of latecomer to address the problems and friction points that customers may have with their existing solutions. And also to perhaps provide the features or the tool sets needed to capitalize on new and emerging opportunities that existing alternatives aren't currently doing. And of course, because we're building tech companies, we have the opportunity to address those opportunities and problems using the latest in technology and design standards. So I think by focusing on these areas, we've been able to capitalize on opportunities in multiple spaces. And this is really what's helping us differentiate Okendo from the other alternatives that are out there. I can probably highlight that with a few examples.
Please do, yeah.
Okay, so everything we do at Okendo is done with a mobile-first approach. So whether that's capturing a customer review, to the retailers moderating reviews, to displaying them on their site, everything we do is mobile-first. And that's really proven to be so important over these last 2 years, because it's really been within this time period that consumer preference for mobile, for both browsing and purchasing, has overtaken desktop. So being so mobile focused has kind of enabled our clients to have significant performance improvements with their review generation. We had one client, Minimal, who migrated to Okendo from a popular alternative, and they were able to increase the rate at which they were generating reviews by over 1,000%. Yeah, wow. And we credit that primarily because the approach that they were previously using to capture reviews really wasn't optimized for mobile, so it was causing a lot of drop-off. So I just think that's a good example of how you can address an existing friction point with the new approach, new tech, to deliver better outcomes.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just thinking too that the old saying, they say the early bird kind of gets the worm, but kind of the second mouse gets the cheese kind of situation. So
it is a little bit like that. Yeah.
It seems that's where Okendo is kind of positioning itself. When you kind of mentioned that, the fact that there's these legacy platforms out there that are doing something similar, but now when you're trying to break through into that market, using some newer technology or the latest technology and design standards and kind of the needs and wants and pain points of maybe existing platforms that don't necessarily do that yet. I think that's interesting that you're able to innovate today and now and execute on it and release it. And, everybody plays catch up, no doubt, all the time, but, and that's just part of innovation. But it's great that you're seeing some really good results here, from some existing beta users and now, in full production now with your service. That's really, really awesome.
Yeah, exactly. I think solving problems is one part of the differentiation strategy. And then the next is that innovation piece and capitalizing on the release of new tech and new opportunities. And I've got a big one in this space to talk to you about, actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we're about to launch a major new feature called Sequences. We've kept it pretty hush-hush leading up to now. We haven't spoken to anybody or in a public forum about Sequences. So
okay.
I'm pleased to say that e-commerce Fastlane listeners will actually be the first to learn about it.
Well, that's very cool. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate
it. So Sequences is intended to give Shopify retailers an array of powerful new capabilities for optimizing the review request process. And quite honestly, these capabilities we haven't seen them at all before in any other reviews app. So we're all very excited about it.
Okay, tell me more.
Absolutely. So these new capabilities are going to kind of enable retailers to improve the review capture process, and in so doing so, kind of make big improvements on the review quality, review quantity, and the actual customer experience of submitting a review as well, or even receiving the request to review.
Right.
So how it's going to work specifically is by giving retailers new tools and controls for the review request process. So the email that goes out after a certain number of days since the order has been fulfilled. So, for example, it'd be able to do things like selectively request review improvements. So let's say you've got a customer that submitted a 5-star review. They're obviously they're happy with their product experience. They're almost a brand advocate, but they didn't include a photo or video with their review, both of which are possible with Okendo. So with Sequences, the retailer can set it to automatically follow up with that customer and ask them, hey, we loved your review. Would you also like to add a photo or video to your review? And if the retailer would like, they can offer an incentive to the customer for doing so.
Yeah, that's fantastic, because I also think, because the workflow currently with a lot of the other solutions out there is that it's not available, and it's something that obviously is important, having a picture or video. I mean, showing actual people using your product in a picture. I mean, I think of kind of what Ezra Firestone does with a few of his brands, and he's been very, very clear about this, that the reasons why, and one of the reasons why he's been so successful with his brands is the fact that his merchants or his customers are able to hashtag and send through photos and stuff as part of their reviews, because you just resonate with another human being through a video review or a picture of holding the product. And I think that's fantastic.
Exactly.
That you're now automating it now. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. It's a way to, of course, automate the capture of the reviews, but then to kind of continually automate the number of customers that include that media with their reviews.
Correct.
another big one with the sequences is going to be the ability for retailers to A/B test their review request sequences. So things like test whether a certain design of the review request email outperforms other tests. Could be testing the subject line, the body of the email, the body text, or even the reward incentive that's available to customers to determine which one customers find the most compelling, and also which one delivers retailers the best return on investment as well.
I see.
So A/B testing is a good one, but the one that I'm probably most excited about is giving retailers the ability to leverage order and customer data as part of the review request. Okay. So this could be something like if an order is over a particular value, or it contains particular products, or even if a product belongs to a particular collection, then retailers can automatically adjust the messaging and the incentive that goes out to that customer. So, for example, if you've got somebody who purchases a high value order, the messaging might be like, "Thanks so much for such a big order. We'd love to get your review." And so the coupon is going to be, or the reward that's on offer is going to be higher than it perhaps otherwise would be.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and then on the other side, you've got the customer data where you could do things like if a customer belongs to, say, the VIP tier of a retailer's loyalty program, then the messaging of the review request email can be automatically updated to kind of reflect the kind of VIP status of the client, kind of acknowledging their contribution to the customer's community and in the kind of request for their feedback as well.
I see. Yeah, and Shopify does have quite a few kind of loyalty and reward solutions. I've had, I think, the bulk of them on this show, and that's another interesting growth opportunity. And it looks like that you're trying to use the data that's available, either tagged data or direct access to data from these other third parties, or through the customer record, and then you're able to then change the messaging accordingly based on their order.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly right.
Awesome.
So I think by kind of focusing on these different opportunities, we've kind of been able to, and I should say the exclusive focus on Shopify and the capabilities of the Shopify platform, we've really been able to build a platform that's differentiated and also such a good fit for Shopify retailers.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm excited for that because I think the A/B test part of it, I think, is great. That's one thing I'm thinking of now, is because I think right now you never really know the success of these sorts of things unless you are A/B testing them. And so I guess you go through some kind of a round robin, going through them all. I would think at scale, especially for plus merchants that have lots of orders, it can really make a large impact because you have a large data set available, different offers and headlines, things like that you mentioned. So that's really cool. So
there's a ton of metrics, right, to add in there. There's a ton of metrics that retailers want to be measuring as part of the review capture process. So like, of course, the open rate of the email, the click rate, the order to review capture rate. And those are all things that retailers, particularly Shopify Plus retailers, will now be able to do, to optimize with sequences and its A/B test capabilities.
I see. So I know for sure, I would say that the bulk of, I would say more than 90% probably of the Shopify Plus store owners likely already currently have some kind of a review process kind of in place on their product pages, or even company reviews, type plugins and things. Now, what about for Shopify kind of core, potentially, who haven't started collecting or displaying reviews yet? Can you kind of walk us through maybe some of the reasons? I mean, it seems that more mature merchants typically know that there's benefits of having reviews on their product pages just for that social proof and kind of recommendation to buy certain popular products. People like to, go in groups of people like to buy the most popular items. But can you kind of walk us through maybe one of the reasons why they should consider starting to collect and display reviews like right away?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you definitely nailed it in terms of the kind of big reason to add reviews is the ability to of reviews to kind of establish trust and credibility in the eyes of new shoppers. So if retailers are going to be spending money driving shoppers to their website, they obviously want to be doing as much as possible to convert them into customers. Right. And as you say, the best way to do that still is showcasing reviews from past customers, the concept of social proof. So that's a big one. And of course, a system like Okendo will give retailers the tools to capture content and then also to showcase it throughout their site. So that could be showing their best reviews on the homepage, of course, product reviews on product pages, or even having all of their reviews aggregated onto a single page so that new shoppers, those who are not yet familiar with the brand, can get a quick feel for the store and the kind of experience of past customers as well.
That's nice.
Yeah, and then I think beyond just the ability to kind of establish trust and showcase popularity, reviews are actually a very important tool in helping shoppers make decisions. And if shoppers can make good decisions, faster decisions, that results in increased conversion rate and, of course, more sales. And there's a few ways that reviews contribute to facilitating shopper decision-making. The first way is that reviews can actually be a great way to give insight into the customers themselves. And that's actually particularly effective because one of the main mental tools consumers will use to try to make good purchasing decisions is to align their decisions with customers that have kind of similar requirements or characteristics as their own.
Right.
The assumption being that this alignment kind of increases the probability the product is going to be right for them or it's going to achieve their desired outcome. So an example of that might be, let's say you've got a female shopper looking to buy a new dress from a retailer she hasn't tried before. She may have had previously had a bad experience purchasing something online and it didn't fit and she had to return it. So this time around, the retailer could actually show reviews from past customers that include sizing insights, things such as waist size, bust, height, and how the product that they purchased subsequently fit for them. So that way, the shopper that's considering buying, if she can identify customers that have similar sizing dimensions as she has, and those customers found the medium to be a great fit, then she's going to feel confident and more compelled to complete her transaction in that visit.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because I have quite a few merchants that I manage or that I consult on, and a lot of them are in the fashion space. One in particular is in the shoe market, and I find what's interesting, they unfortunately are not using your service, and at this point they're actually not doing any reviews yet, which is really shocking to me. Separate issue, but the primary thing, the way they're getting around it is that right in the description of the product, they actually put in there about, that, for example, if you're a size 10, we recommend that you select a 10 and a half. And so they're being very general. I guess they're saying that maybe their sizes are a little bit, on the smaller side. So you need to kind of, so based on your size, you should just get a half size larger. And I feel that, as an interesting workaround that is, and as it maybe is helping reduce, the kind of returns and exchanges that happen, I think quite a bit in fashion. I know large amounts of returns happen in footwear, just for that sizing reason alone. It's very interesting that that's a really great example of why having proper product reviews and then on the product page and then talking very specifically about the fit and the subsequent. I think that's fantastic that you're kind of addressing that concern.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you look at, let's say, any fashion item on Amazon, or there's some other popular sites, say Rent the Runway, they've all experienced significant success by giving customer insights into sizing dimensions and their particular experience with the product. And that in turn helps them, one, kind of build this kind of customer community around the brand, and also helps people make decisions.
Right.
But aside from giving the insight into the consumers, of course, reviews are also intended to give an insight into people's product experiences. Right. And so the other way people make decisions is to try to understand how a product performs in perhaps two or three key attributes, or two or three key areas. So price, of course, is always going to be one of those dimensions, but beyond that, it's really product specific. So as another example, let's say you've got a customer considering buying, say, the latest teeth whitening products. Okay. So aside from price, she's probably going to be particularly interested in understanding, say, effectiveness. Does it actually whiten my teeth?
Right.
Maybe another one. Yeah. Speed of results. Is it going to take a day? Is it going to take a week? How quickly is it going to happen? And maybe ease of use. So is it something that anyone can do, or they have to spend an hour struggling in front of the mirror to make it happen?
Right.
So I think if retailers can actually show reviews that highlight customer feedback on these specific product attributes, it could be, say, a rating of 1 to 5 on each area, it suddenly makes it very easy for the shopper to assess performance and make their purchasing decisions.
Mm-hmm. I could see that.
Yeah. And as you touched on before, when customers can make better decisions, one benefit, of course, is retailers make more sales. But the additional benefit is that the cost and support overhead goes down. So yeah, I think helping people make decisions is a great one.
Right. And then what about about obviously these extra fields and things that were, or data points that we're capturing? Have you kind of addressed that concern? Because you always think, it's easy to kind of give a 5-star review on something and potentially just a really quick review. But if we really want to have more data points available, how have you addressed the collection of these other attributes?
That's a great question. So this is very much related to the way Okendo collects reviews and the way that it's done differently compared to alternatives. Okay. So we have, as I said, a very mobile-focused approach to review capture, where the customer is first asked in the email to provide a star rating for that product.
Okay.
The customer is then taken out to a dedicated reviews capture page that's been built for a mobile-first experience. And on that page, they can provide a review in their own words. They can provide the structured attribute ratings, and that can be a distinction between product attributes and customer attributes. They can submit photos and videos, and they can even add their social media profile picture from Facebook or Google.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's a unique review capture approach, and one that definitely optimizes for both review capture and review quality.
I see. Okay, awesome. Very cool. Yeah, I definitely like the mobile first part of it, because I think that's, obviously the bulk of the traffic that's coming in, at least in the discovery mode. And then once people have made a purchase, these kind of notification type emails that are sent through, obviously, asking for a review and kind of these kind of follow-ups from a brand that you've already purchased from, it tends to, pique a lot of interest from a lot of people. Like, is there something new that I can get? Oh, they're looking for a review. Well, I do like that. Those new pair of shoes or this dress or whatever I've purchased. So I think the open and click-through rates are usually quite high typically, because you kind of already have a built-up relationship, and then and the bulk of that people are out and about. So having a mobile kind of first approach to the review capture process, I think that's very innovative. Even though maybe other solutions on the market would be a responsive type, but they haven't really thought from the user's experience from a mobile first strategy. And then, it works on desktop, great, but it really works well because you're already logged into all your social profiles. You have access to lots of things that you could do kind of on the fly. I think it's quite interesting.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Just to finish this topic of the benefits of reviews, I think there is one other reason that when I'm speaking to retailers about why they should consider adding reviews to their site, and it's kind of like more of a higher order, higher level kind of outcome, which is once the retailer actually builds up a good volume of reviews and even questions and answers, a sense of customer community can kind of begin to exist around the brand, sort of kind of customer movement, which once it's existing, starts to become kind of self-perpetuating as well. And that's particularly true when you have retailers that are focused on value or cause-based marketing, influencer collaboration, or running loyalty programs. And a customer community kind of represents the holy grail for digital brands these days, because there's just so many commercial benefits to a brand of having one. So it could be the ability of a community to increase awareness stage or the effectiveness of awareness stage marketing. Because, of course, once a community starts existing and you have community members interacting with each other, it inevitably becomes highly visible.
Right.
So a good example of that might be somebody purchasing, say, from Fashion Nova. She tags Fashion Nova on her Instagram. Her friends see it. They're interested to check out Fashion Nova as well. So it kind of functions as a bit of a dragnet where the community is both directly and indirectly referring new users to the brand. And the benefit of that, of course, is customer acquisition cost goes down. And then another good benefit of a customer community is, of course, the decision-making assistance that customer community members can provide to each other. Glossier is a good example of that, where they have customers sharing their skin type, skin concerns, and feedback on particular products. And, of course, a community, the sense of kind of customer inclusion that results from a community helps increase brand affinity, brand loyalty, and that means that customers buy more products, repeat purchase rate goes up, and customer lifetime value goes up. And I think perhaps most importantly, a customer community, once it's up and running, it can't be easily replicated, which means that brands are able to create both differentiation and points of defensibility. And I think that that's actually very, very important, given that it feels as though retailers are in a state of kind of super competition at the moment. So the more retailers can do to kind of establish credibility, facilitate decision-making, but also ensure that they have differentiation and defensibility, that's going to be very important as well.
Yeah, it's funny that you're mentioning this, like building this community and just almost like a moat around the brand and the word of mouth that kind of happens because of it. It like some of the conversations that I've had of late, and the word that's being brought up quite a bit is, how do I get my customers' attention or potential customers' attention? And attention being the single word, it's just like, yeah, that's a really good point, because there's so much noise, and as the months and years go by, more and more people are shopping online. It's growing, and because of that grows the selection and it grows your competition. And and if you can figure out ways of getting more attention to your brand, either through discovery, and the discovery can go through word of mouth, as you said, tagging things, what Fashion Nova potentially is doing, and then resharing that from a hashtag. And it's so interesting that that's where the market is going. How do you get a new customer's attention, and or how do you gently remind existing customers that you're still around and there's something new? If it's fashion, then there'll be new product lines coming out for seasons and things like that. So it's quite interesting, and that's kind of where my focus is too, trying to help brands grow. Is how do you get more attention? And it sounds like you have that dialed with Okendo, so that's fantastic. So
yeah, absolutely. I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I just got to agree with you that, those are all things that retailers need to focus on, and competing for attention in today's market is super hard. Absolutely.
So let's jump into the competition topic then. So we kind of discussed it a little bit on the show so far, but and with other guests and stuff too. And I just would like to get your take on the market and kind of what you think it takes for kind of retailers to kind of succeed kind of online in today's kind of climate.
Okay, yeah. So I think I definitely, as I said, agree that we are in a state of kind of hyper competition at the moment in retail. We've obviously got Amazon and the rest of the 1,000-pound gorillas out there, Walmart, Jet, the rest of them. Interestingly, we seem to be living through a bit of a direct-to-consumer gold rush at the moment. Right. Seems there's hundreds of emerging brands piling into every possible consumer niche to try to topple the retail old guard.
Yeah, that's so true.
You've got the digital transformation of the traditional brands, both big and small. And we've got micro brands that emerge very quickly, perhaps might disappear very quickly, new business models such as drop shipping. And of course, all of this has been facilitated by lower barriers to entry, enabling platforms like Shopify. And so, it's resulted in a really competitive market.
How do I'm just thinking out loud here now, but so how do you build customer loyalty? Like, how do you win in that space? Like, I'm just thinking from your perspective and just trying to, from what you see and kind of building this platform, these are obviously some problems that you're trying to solve. So how does someone listening to the show right now, how do they improve their customer loyalty or just win more with their store?
I think that's how do retailers kind of succeed in such a competitive market space is definitely the golden question. And it's what all of us building technology platforms like Okendo are trying to help retailers answer. I think what a good guiding point for answering that question is basically to look at what those retailers who are winning in this competitive market, what they're doing as a kind of reference point. Because I think if you look closely at brands like Glossier, Gymshark, Fashion Nova, you can kind of see that there are some common strategies when they get it right, it does work. Right. It does enable brands to achieve differentiation and create those moats of defensibility.
I see.
I'd say, like, specifically, there's probably at least three areas that I see those type of brands focusing on and strategies to establish that differentiation. As you said, it's very much focused on customer loyalty. So these brands understand that it's cheaper and easier to drive additional revenue from existing customers. And that's true because for digital brands, they often say customer acquisition costs are the new rent.
That's so true. Yeah.
And the costs of marketing on platforms like Facebook and Instagram is only going up. So retailers, certainly like Fashion Nova and Glossier, they understand that they need to be focused on not just the one-off transaction, but actually winning the customer's account, the repeat business, the customer loyalty.
Yeah, and these are topics that come up quite a bit too in my calls and coaching and stuff. And it's just I use the word pay to play. It's just the way it is now. Just organic reach can be tough, and cost per acquisition costs are definitely going up. And so you definitely want to figure out ways of how you can maximize lifetime value of your existing customers. And I think that's as you say, as part of winning the customer loyalty is just understanding the fact that there is a paid acquisition cost to that customer, but then what are you doing long term to kind of nurture that customer into someone who's loyal and potentially even a brand advocate at some point through loyalty and points and these sorts of things. So it's very interesting that that's kind of how you're aligned and how you're thinking, that Okendo is kind of trying to help that part of the equation.
Absolutely. And related to that sense of customer loyalty is the interactions that retailers or customers have with both other customers and with the retailers themselves. Because as I was kind of mentioning before, you do see brands like Gymshark, Glossier focusing on trying to build a sense of customer community around the brand. I think that they've actually made that quite a foundational goal of theirs, and they've many strategies that they have are kind of aimed at either directly achieving that goal or supporting it, because there's just such great benefit of a customer community. So one other benefit that I can think of that I didn't touch on before is how a customer community helps retailers kind of be flexible. So we kind of live in an age of rapidly evolving platform preferences. So today, Instagram is the hot platform. What's it going to be tomorrow? We don't really know. But if you have a significant amount of customer loyalty, a community that exists around the brand, that's actually going to help you be resilient to change. So if suddenly tomorrow there's a majorly new, hot, popular platform that everyone's jumping on, a community should be able to kind of transfer over to that new platform and without you missing a beat. So it helps retailers be resilient. And then I think just as a high level, we see these retailers focusing on maximizing the customer experience. At all customer touch points, they understand that there's a need to have a strategy that optimizes the customer experience. So whether that's having personalized recommendations for when customers are browsing, streamlined checkout, so perhaps checkout defaults to individual payment preferences, or actually getting lifecycle marketing right by having recommendations for products that the customer's actually going to be interested in.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that too, because in a few past episodes that I've had, we've definitely brought on some guests that have built some great solutions for kind of personalized recommendations to really give that the site visitor almost a one-on-one type of experience on site, which I think is fabulous. And I agree with you on the checkout part of it too. I think that there's ways for sure of having a proper checkout process, and Shopify is quite good with Shopify Pay, where if you've previously made a purchase, that this accelerated checkout is really helps that checkout flow happen quite quickly. And it's nice to have some defaults, preferences and things, or even Apple Pay. You're already logged in, and just the checkout process is very, very quick and simple. And I think that's great. And then for sure, I've had folks on too for email and for email marketing, and just kind of it just comes back to the same thing again. It's like what are we doing with our existing customers, and how do we grow lifetime value? And from a personalized one-on-one experience with a great fast checkout process, and then able to follow up with in your case, following up with reviews, and following up again for maybe a picture or video review in exchange for a further promotion and building brand affinity and stuff. I think that's fantastic that's kind of how you're thinking too. This is the Okendo platform is progressing, and it's kind of how the market is demanding.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the average retailer now has the ability to compete on customer experience. In fact, it's one of the key points of differentiation and competitive advantage that retailers should be focusing on when trying to compete with Amazon or other large retailers. And the emergence of individual kind of best-in-breed technologies within categories, so whether that's Okendo for reviews or another app for loyalty, that's enabling retailers to have strategies for improving the customer experience at the key points. Whereas it's interesting now, because that wasn't always the case. It used to be that big retailers were the only ones that could afford the expensive systems that kind of had all the functionality in one platform, and so they could easily kind of collect and utilize customer data from each touch point and use that to improve the experiences on different touch points. But that's changing, because platforms like Okendo can now integrate with other folks. So whether it's with your loyalty app, with your support app, because I think apps now understand the need to ensure retailers' data is never siloed, and so that they can aggregate it in more places, so that they can use that data to improve the customer experience. And I think having a central platform like Shopify, which serves to kind of standardize both the tech and process, really does kind of facilitate this type of cooperation between apps.
Yeah, and it's kind of on that point too. I'm thinking about, for example, one feature through Shopify Plus, which is called Flow, and they recently released a new thing called Connectors now, and two apps are now able to talk to each other, and with exactly. Flow being in the middle. And I think and just being at Unite, which is the big partner conference that happens every year, it was very clear to me that, Shopify is really doubling down on their partner ecosystem, and the fact that, it's Toby and Harley are very clear that, Shopify does 80% of e-commerce very well. It's that other 20% that needs to be filled in through marketing platforms and apps. And I find it interesting that you said that, because that's the the road that Shopify has continued to go down. That's why our app and kind of partner ecosystem is flourishing so well, is because we're giving an opportunity for these other platforms to kind of connect to Shopify to really improve that customer experience of things that we just don't want to build at the moment because we want to do this 80% over here really, really well. It's this other 20% that needs to be added on. And so I guess going down that same conversation. So are there plans, or do you currently connect to other technologies kind of in the Shopify ecosystem?
Yes, we do. We've actually kind of made that a big focus at Okendo,
Awesome.
simply because we understand that retailers need to be sharing data between platforms to provide the best possible customer experiences. So we integrate with a number of different apps, probably across 3 or 4 main categories. So for customer support, we would integrate with apps like Gorgeous, Zendesk, and that enables retailers to kind of route reviews to a support team if the review is perhaps a low star rating or it has negative sentiment in the body language of the review text. Because if a customer is submitting a review and it's perhaps less than a stellar review, ideally retailers want to be following up with that customer and addressing whatever problems exist.
If you could actually see me right now, I'm actually nodding my head up and down because I could see that being an issue where there's a very low starred review, and there's obviously, because of some kind of problem of shipping or a size, a return, kind of a customer servicey type issue. Now it's very interesting that you are thinking about this and like, well, how do I push this out quickly out to Gorgeous or Zendesk so it can be triaged right away and dealt with? Because, I think, as time goes by, just imagine get notifications quite quickly when a bad review comes through and notification is sent to a particular channel inside Gorgeous. I find that interesting that people can be alerted and then someone in the service or division of a brand or a company or the owner could jump on that call right away or through email and address it on the spot. And then you can really, change that person's sentiment towards the brand and all of a sudden go in and rechange their star rating and think, now I feel like I'm being heard now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's a lot of evidence that suggests customers that have issues which go on to be resolved actually end up to have higher customer satisfaction ratings, end up being more loyal customers, even more profitable customers. So the opportunity to get good feedback is, of course, a huge part of the objective, but also getting negative feedback has significant opportunities for retailers as well. So we want to ensure that we're giving them the tools to capitalize and manage that process.
And the fact that it just gives a pulse for the brand and kind of what's going on, because if people are leaving negative reviews, then, where there's smoke, there's fire. And is there any kind of process that needs to be improved upon? And so it just exactly. For the business owner, it wakes them up a bit. And so having some kind of support notifications now because of a poor star rating or language in the review, that's interesting to me. And I think our listeners to the show should take that to heart. That's something that's, I think, very, very important.
Absolutely. And I think Okendo even makes that easy, makes it as easy as possible, given that we have a bit of machine learning built into the system by using a bit of natural language processing to identify negative sentiment in the text of a review. So even if somebody tries to game the system by putting 5 stars, but then writing a negative review, Okendo will still identify that it's not a great review and will send to the support team for them to address.
And so what other kind of, categories or technologies do you connect to then?
Yeah, we integrate with loyalty programs, a number of different loyalty apps. So Smile, Well Rewards, Loyalty Lion, so that retailers can incentivize customers for leaving reviews or for including different types of content with their review. And that could be a customer profile picture from social media, a photo, or a video. And even down the line, we've got plans to incentivize customers for answering shopper questions to really help build that sense of community as well.
Awesome.
And as you mentioned about Flow, we're actually starting to do some interesting work there so that retailers can leverage Flow and the customer data that comes in from reviews. So they can do things like, let's say they're capturing reviews for a sample product. They can use Flow or a Shopify Flow trigger to move the review for the sample product onto the full size product. And that's just some more automation that helps retailers kind of regain their most valuable commodity, their time, of course. And we actually even have some stuff in the works with Shopify Ping and Kit, building some Kit skills to help retailers approve or reject reviews directly on their mobile, or even reply to questions from the Ping app as well. I might also add we do have an integration with Google so that reviews are indexable by Google search crawlers, so that retailers can get the SEO value of their reviews, of all that kind of unique natural language content that we know Google loves. But you also integrate with Google Shopping, so their review data can show in Google Shopping feeds and in Google product listing ads as well.
That's awesome, because I know that was one of the pain points that through some of the other competitors in this space, in the kind of product review type space, that maybe some of their lower price tiers, unfortunately, we're running through iframes and we're not being crawled and indexed by Google. Right. Had the same kind of look and feel, but running in an iframe. And for those that don't know, Google doesn't look too favorably on that because it's grabbing external content that's not really on page SEO value, because it's grabbed from a third party somewhere else and kind of paste it into a certain content block. And it's great that you've addressed that. So that's fantastic. So we are nearing the end of the show, and do you kind of have any closing comments that you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Well, I think we've had a good chat today. Enjoyed talking about the state of retail in general, but I think when it comes to customer reviews specifically, if retailers are going to spend money on supporting marketing technologies, they're doing it because it's an investment, and of course they want to make a return on that investment. One of the things I mentioned in the beginning was understanding retailers' needs and perhaps addressing issues with existing solutions. Okendo's pricing is fair, it's transparent. Retailers can get started capturing and displaying reviews on their site for just $99 a month. There's no limit to the number of orders that they can send review request emails out for each month, and they can always get started with a free trial. So I think for retailers considering a solution like Okendo to add reviews, they need to be thinking about it through the perspective of return on investment. And so how many additional sales do they need to be making to achieve that return if there's a subscription fee of $99? I'm happy to share that for the majority of our clients, the ROI is achieved within the first couple of months, purely as a result of the conversion lift on product pages. So that increased consumer trust, the ability to facilitate decision making. And I think everything else on top of that, such as the repeat purchases from review incentives, the increased marketing effectiveness by being able to integrate Okendo with your support app loyalty program, and just the better customer experience that you can offer. It's value add. Essentially, that stuff's not bundled into the pricing factor. So
how can people learn more about the Shopify app and the whole Okendo platform?
Yeah, so we are now in the Okendo App Store. Only been there for about 6-7 weeks, so excited to be launching there. Yeah, search for Okendo. You can find us in there, and also at okendo.io. I see. And just for the listeners, it's Okendo is the spelling for it. So yes. Okendo.io, and we talked just before, Matt and I talked just before recording, and he's been very, very generous to offer a special trial, a special offer. And the way the offer is going to work is any new signups, you automatically get a kind of a 30-day free trial. And that's including kind of the setup assistance and migration. If you're currently using an existing kind of review app, either the default one that's available through Shopify or any of the other third-party review type solutions that are out there, this migration is available as included as part of that 30-day setup. And also, as you mentioned at the top of the show about this new sequences that are coming out, I guess the word would be to celebrate the release of this new feature. Absolutely. You've decided to offer the first 25 brands that store owners that sign up. They can get the power plan, which is the more expensive. I think the power plan is around $250 or $249 per month. And now you're going to be giving that for $99 a month for the first year. So it's certainly, to me, it's a no-brainer that you should really take this offer at least for 30 days, and at least get the assistance of the setup and the migration, get it going, and see the power of kind of what Okendo can do. And if it seems to be right for you and
proof's in the pudding that if you don't have a review plugin at this point and review solution, that I really think it's going to make a big difference kind of in your conversion rate. As you mentioned, you got the stats to prove it. And I've seen it as a lift too on any of the brands that I've personally have run or people that I kind of coach on and manage currently. So that's great. Now, so I guess what would be the best way if people sign up for the trial, and how should they communicate with you that they made a decision that yes, Okendo is right for them to get this deal?
So for every sign up that comes to Okendo, we'll work closely with you to get Okendo set up for your store and customized for your requirements, including customization to ensure the widgets, everything's in line with the brand and site design. So we'll actually work closely with each retailer throughout the free trial. And then, the first 25 clients that at the end of that free trial decide they want to sign up, we'll be offering the power plan for the price of the Pro.
That's fabulous. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I just massively appreciate it. You really just opened my eyes about kind of, you don't necessarily have to be first to market. That I really feel that, that because there's some legacy players out there, I also feel that you're coming into the market at a great time when e-commerce is massively growing. Shopify is massively growing, and retailers need this sort of solution. And I appreciate the innovation, and I appreciate how you're connecting to the partner ecosystem and building relationships that way. And then because a lot of merchants, people listening to this show, definitely are using a lot of the very popular apps that I see that you now connect to and communicate with. And I think that's fantastic. So kudos to you and your team. And thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this episode. A little longer than I typically record, but Matt and I had such a great conversation. I wanted to share the entire recording with you today. And kind of regardless of where you are in your e-commerce business, it's my hope that you have clarity now on the benefits and the necessity for product reviews, user-generated content, and adding a tech stack like Okendo really will help you grow and thrive and create kind of significant impact in your market. And on the next episode of E-commerce Fastlane, I have a chat with Brett Bernstein, who is the co-founder of a platform called Gatsby. Now, we all know the power of driving new visitors to a Shopify store through influencers, but wait until you see how connecting your brand to Gatsby instantly helps you build authentic connections with your customers. It's an episode you definitely don't want to miss. Well, thank you again for taking time out of your busy day today and listening to the show. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey with commerce powered by Shopify. Thanks for being a loyal listener and a supporter. And until then, enjoy the rest of your week and take care.